Where'd that dog go? Dog! Dog, do a podcast with us!
He's gone. The dog is gone.
Aw. Dog! Bye, dog.
What's Marty's dog named? He's the best dog in cinema.
You mean Doc's dog?
Yeah, whatever.
Einstein?
Einstein?
Oh.
And then the earlier dog was Copernicus.
Yeah. I've always wondered, is that the same dog?
Different names.
Because they
so I
look,
don't think
they look
so.
pretty familiar.
Well, a lot of
Or
times,
similar.
like, a lot of times, like even like the same dog in like the movie is not played by the same dog. Like Lassie was played by like 4 different dogs.
No, I know, but like in the story, is that the same dog? Did the doc just change the dog's name?
No, because that dog would have died because that was in the 50s.
Now you're just making me sad.
Yeah, it's like unless like Einstein is like,
He's
407 in dog years.
He's Doc Brown. He could figure out a way to do it. He had that machine that read people's minds.
But why would he change the dog's name?
Right.
Because science moved on. It's the same dog. No.
Or just to like conceal the dog's identity so that people don't realize the dog is immortal.
You got
Yeah.
fake his death.
Fake the dog's death. It was like in like Highlander. Like there can be only one.
That makes me so sad. No. It's the same dog. He just changed his name.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever you want to believe, Donovan.
It's the same dog.
Okay.
It's the same dog. Welcome to the Swiftfilm Show. Today we're talking about Nebraska.
The movie, not the state.
What kind of a state?
We can talk about the state too.
Corn. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Ayo.
Football, college football.
College
College
football.
football.
What else did I have?
Go Cornhuskers.
The home of what's that? Arbor Day?
Home of Arbor Day, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, well, we found out.
Apparently.
What the hell happened there? There weren't a lot of trees in this movie.
That's because they cut them all down to make farmland.
Oh, okay. All right, and some other things. So whatever. Anyways, with me is Husain Sumra.
Welcome.
You just get. Jon Xavier.
Hi.
And I'm, of course, Donovan, your host. So, Nebraska. What did you... A small indie movie shot in black and white with MacGruber, Saul, and
Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern. Yeah. So what do you guys think?
I thought it was a really fine film that was relatable and funny.
Yeah, I had a really good time watching this. It was not like it was a fairly small scale intimate movie.
Yeah.
Really small scale.
Really
they probably
small
did
scale.
This with
$13 million, I think, is what it cost to make this movie.
It cost that much?
Well, they had to rent the cameras and pay the actors.
I guess so. Yeah.
Bruce Dern is not cheap. He makes Bruce Dern money.
You're right. They probably went to all casting.
Rent out an entire town.
Right. Yeah. Rent out a small Nebraska town. Like I don't know what the going rate on that is, but it's got to be pretty expensive.
It's got to be hundreds of dollars.
Literally hundreds of dollars. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to Nebraska, this movie was it had a lot of heart. The character relationships felt really like true to life.
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of like my own sort of relationships with my older relations, my grandpa and things like that. And it was really funny in kind of a low key sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt very much like going home and hanging out with that awkward kind of family get together over the holidays, which is kind of perfect timing because that's really what this whole movie was about. Just awkwardly getting to know your family again.
They nailed that. Just when you sit down and you're like, so, what kind of car you driving nowadays?
Yes.
How long did it take you to get here?
While watching like football and
yeah. There's this one scene where all of like the older men in the family, like it's like the Bruce Dern who plays the father. It's like all his like brothers. And they're all together in a room. And they haven't seen each other in
years.
Yeah, like 20 years. They're all sitting there. They're all watching college football. No one's saying a word. And like it's just they let the scene play out. And then finally one of them is like, "So you still driving that Impala?" And then there's silence for a couple minutes. And it's like,
No,
I never had an Impala. Could have sworn you had an Impala. No. Silence for another couple minutes. I had a Chevy, though.
It was a Buick.
I had a Buick, though. It's like, oh, that's what it was. Silence for another couple minutes. You still driving that?
Like, haven't for a while.
just those forced conversations.
Yeah, and it was like it was so perfect. And meanwhile, like MacGruber, Will Forte, plays the son in this, is just sitting there,
and he's basically playing the audience in that scene of
Yeah,
just,
and he's
watching
just, like,
this conversation happen.
You can just see his like face just getting more and more like,
like, what the fuck is happening?
What's going on? But it felt like I remember those moments, at family get-togethers and stuff, and it just you could really feel this sort of the depth, but also the strangeness of sort of extended family. Yeah. These people that you don't really know, but at the same time, you're so closely related to.
Yeah, and you are forced to have those awkward conversations. Like, yep.
We said what it's about? Because the premise is kind of wacky.
We probably should. So the premise of this movie is Bruce Dern is Will Forte's dad. He's getting on in years. He's maybe getting a little bit senile. And he has sort of an awkward relationship with his sons because when they were growing up, he was kind of an alcoholic. And he and his wife have this sort of bickering kind of relationship and stuff. And he gets this letter from a magazine company saying, You've won $1 million. All you have to do is bring this letter to Lincoln, Nebraska, and collect your millions. And so the father is like trying to go to Nebraska to collect his millions. And they keep telling him it's a complete scam, Dad.
It's a marketing ploy, Dad.
This is literally the oldest scam in the book. I didn't even know they still did this because no one falls for this. But his dad keeps insisting to do it. He keeps leaving the house and trying to walk to Nebraska.
From Montana.
From Montana. They're in Billings, Montana, and he's trying to walk, 750 miles to Lincoln, Nebraska. And so finally, Will Forte, who plays his sort of long-suffering son, decides, just fuck it, I'll take him.
Yeah,
just to
we'll
shut him up.
show you didn't win $1 million.
Yeah, just to shut him up. I will take you to Nebraska. And also, because he's having some issues with sort of his relationship, and he just wants to get out of town for a couple days, so it's an excuse for him to get out of town, spend some time with his dad, and then also finally shut him up and get him to stop trying to go to Nebraska. And so it's part of it is like a kind of a little road trip between them. Then they get sidetracked and they end up going to the town
where his dad grew up.
Where his dad lets slip that he won $1 million, and everybody in town believes him.
Yeah, and everyone then wants a piece of it too.
Right,
yeah.
And while Will is 4 days trying to just
keep a handle on everything.
Yeah, keep a handle on everything. So it's very, the sort of central conceit of this movie is it's about sort of his relationship with his dad's sort of relationship with his mother, but also everyone else in the town and the people that he grew up with. It's really it's a movie about families. It's a movie about the town you grew up in and the people that you grew up with and sort of the history that you have with them. And just really just a joy to watch this movie.
It is really kind of a perfect holiday movie.
Yeah.
Just because it's not based around a holiday like most holiday movies are.
No.
But it's
got the same themes.
And it captures so much of like what people both love and hate about the holidays. It's like, oh, I like being around my family, but I hate being around them.
Right. And also it's just like, it's great seeing everybody, but these people are essentially strangers to me. They're people who I haven't seen in years, so I don't really know. But at the same time, they're family. It hits on that sort of weirdness that is sort of, central to, both your family and your hometown and like all these things that you've sort of left behind but have to visit from time to time.
But it doesn't bring a cynical eye to it, which I thought was really, really sweet because it brings a very kind of endearing look at that awkwardness and that kind of weird situation of going back to family in your home.
Which is why it's a good holiday movie because it's like that's something that you tend to confront at Thanksgiving, Christmas, times when you gather.
Yeah. But
this movie has sort of an ultimately kind of a hopeful tone.
Yeah.
And look at that, which makes it great because it's not saccharine about it. These relationships feel really realistic in this movie, but at the same time, it's kind of heartwarming because things ultimately do sort of work out.
Yeah.
So Nebraska. small indie film. You'll probably have to go find like a small,
it's
art house movie theater.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in wider release now. It came out in limited release a few weeks ago. We wanted to go see it then, we weren't able to. It's out in wider release now. I would say, yeah, definitely seek this movie out if you are just looking for, a good time at the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Really.
Before Hobbit and Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a movie that might be sort of overshadowed by bigger, louder movies.
There was one performance that we thought was all really, really good, and that was the mom.
I forgot her name, though.
Shoot. They used a lot of... This movie used a lot of, like, smaller actors. Or some of the actors and actresses are, like, this is their first movie ever.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but the person that played the mom in this movie was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Stole the scene every time she was in it.
She was just this sort of crotchety old woman who's, like, talking about, like there's this one scene where they... like visit a the graveyard
to see all their old friends,
all the the family and people that have passed on. It's like, oh, there's such and such. Yeah, she was a slut. He's like, it's Mom, please. It's like, no, I'm just telling the truth.
Oh, he was a drunk.
Yeah.
He wanted to sleep with me.
Yeah, he kept trying to get into my bloomers, but he was so boring. And it was great because it's like this old lady just like,
Just going off on pretty much dead people.
But the way that like some old people just sort of get, where they just don't give a shit anymore. And they're going to say what they want to say, and decorum be damned. And that's definitely this character, and she was just so great. Like most of the biggest laughs in the movies are from her.
Bruce Dern is probably second, though.
Bruce Dern was really good because he's like this very. Like I said, it's a very like true to life portrait of like this old sort of somewhat befuddled old man, but who also sort of has this weird dignity about him. Really kind of reminded me of my own grandpa, who was similarly kind of a man of a few words. Like you'd ask him a question and there'd be a pause, and then he would say like 3 words, and like it's that sort of character, like this kind of like taciturn old man, and because he doesn't talk a whole lot in the movie, like a lot of the the scenes have to be sort of carried by just sort of his reactions and the look on his face and the way he's kind of moving. It's a great performance.
Yeah, and Will Forte too. Because he's usually the crazy character like MacGruber and SNL, and here he's just this
Will Forte
straight man.
Spent like a few years on Saturday Night Live, and he's been in like mostly zany roles. But this is he's the straight man in this movie, and it's a very sort of naturalistic, spare performance that's called for.
Yeah. And I really like the character too. Like the character was just very much just kind of like, all right, Dad, we'll go to Nebraska. It's like just kind of very appeasing, even though he had a very like the relationship with his father struggles sometimes.
Yeah, well, he's definitely has some issues from when his dad was an alcoholic. It turns out like he's having his own issues with drinking. He's trying to quit because he says it's just making it worse. And yeah, it's interesting because it's a character. He clearly doesn't necessarily get along with his dad at all times, but he loves his dad just the same.
Yeah. And that one scene where he's like, he finally has a drink with his dad, and it comes out that he's like, he wants some guidance from his dad about his relationship with his longtime girlfriend.
Yeah, and his dad is just completely incapable of providing.
Yeah. He gets nothing. He's like, well, I mean, like, did you ever like talk to Mom about like having kids or like getting married? And it's like, no.
Never came. Yeah, you must have loved each other. Never came up.
Yeah. It's like, well, why did you get married? It's like, well, your mother's Catholic, and I wanted to have sex with her. So
it was like, well, I figured. He's like, I figured, what the hell? And yeah, it's great because it's like that relationship is so true to some people's relationships with their parents, where it's like, you love this person and you have this really deep connection to them, but at the same time, it's like, if you weren't related, you wouldn't probably hang out together.
Yeah. All right, so enough of us gushing about this movie. Nebraska, go find it. It's great.
Well
worth
seeing. And like I said, I think it's probably going to get overshadowed by bigger, louder movies.
Yeah. Even at the Oscars too.
Yeah, even at the Oscars, because it's a very sweet sort of intimate portrait, and it's not one of these like big sweeping epics like 12 Years a Slave or something. That really, tends to get
something that celebrates movies like Saving Mr. Banks.
I don't know. Best Supporting Actress for the mom, I could see it.
I could see that
nomination.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like I'm not sure who the supporting actress field doesn't feel as strong this year as it did last year.
That's why I think she might have a chance at winning.
Yeah.
I think it's Jennifer Lawrence at this point.
American Hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we'll have to, forego judgment till we actually see American Hustle.
Yeah.
But. Certainly deserves a nomination at least.
Yeah. All right, so this movie was shot in black and white, which is something. It's kind of black and white, obviously, since we have color and 3D and fucking 4K resolution. It's reserved for movies that have to give it a certain artistic value, and very much so in this movie was it used to just kind of underplay everything to make the shots and the acting stand out.
Yeah, and it also gives it, because it's, it's filmed in the heartland, it's Nebraska, it's these small towns. It kind of gives it this weird, like, nostalgic feeling, like you're watching like an old movie, from the 40s or 50s, where, like, a lot of the movies, nowadays it seems like every movie is set in the big city, but in the 40s and 50s, and it felt like you had, like, movies that were kind of set in the country, because that was still how most of
these towns look.
Well, it's how most of America lived. The flight to the cities hadn't really happened yet. It gives it kind of an interesting nostalgic feel and beautifully shot.
Yeah, the shot composition was amazing.
It's very like there's a lot of shots of these just sort of like the sort of Nebraska countryside where it's very much like ground, horizon, sky, and then like it was shot in the wintertime, so the sky's very kind of overcast with these like wispy Nevada clouds, and you see like farm equipment standing out against the horizon and stuff like that. It's just, and then like the music was really nice because there was a lot of sort of driving scenes set to like countryside shots with this like nice little like
peaceful
like score accompanying it that made it really kind of like relaxing and nice to watch.
The black and white also, it strips it down, so you're not distracted by any colors. You're just focusing on the emotion and the characters and what they're saying.
Yeah, it makes it feel a little bit more timeless. I felt, because it's like it felt like you could have set this movie in any any time frame and it would have rang just as true. Whereas, like, I think if you were to make it in color, it would have really drawn attention to the fact that they're like driving a modern car.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sort of shots of like older sort of rundown buildings and sort of small towns and things and like little like corner taverns and things like that, which you get the sense like they haven't changed really since
that's a good
since
point.
The 50s, and so like. By putting it black and white and sort of de-emphasizing the fact that the things that are very new,
aren't that new. You don't get that contrast at all.
Right, exactly. It compresses it so that there was like it felt like it could have taken place at any like span of those like 50 years.
Yeah.
So great use of black and white.
Yeah, this isn't the only.
No, there's been some other movies that have used black and white this year.
Yeah,
Francis Ha and Escape from Tomorrow are the other two big ones this year.
Yeah, but it does seem to be like for a long time you never saw black and white movies at all. Even indie movies were in color. It seems like it's having kind of a renaissance right now, and I wonder if it's partially because it's so easy to do in black and white. You just shoot it in color, and it's you remove the color in post, and it's in black and white.
It's more of a conscious filmmaking decision.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I wonder. I mean, certainly there are like effects to doing it in black and white. The sort of timelessness that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
And the ability to really focus you on the forms of the actors and the compositions of the shot rather than color. But yeah, it does seem to be the case that it's happening more and more, particularly with indie movies. I don't think that they would do, The Hobbit in black and white.
What was the last big movie in black and white? Might have, I don't know if The Artist counts, and before that maybe Good Night and Good Luck.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think those were definitely the two big
Artist,
Hollywood-backed movies.
Yeah, The Artist was probably the most recent one. And obviously that was in black and white for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
This movie, it's not like it's trying to look like it's a like 1930s movie.
Yeah.
It's
to serve the story and
right. Yeah, the black and white is really there for thematic effect, and the same way I think in Escape from Tomorrow. I haven't seen Frances Ha.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I'm assuming it's kind of the same way.
Yeah, but in Escape from Tomorrow, I think you were saying that it's more they didn't want the home.
Well, they shot it.
Cam.
They shot it on basically the same sorts of cameras that people, if they were going to be, filming their home movies in the park. Because they needed to blend in, they were not there with like these big
studio cameras
on like Steadicams and stuff like that. And so I think what happened was they ended up with footage that looked kind of like vacation footage, and they didn't really want.
It was too amateurish.
Yeah.
Not even amateurish, but they wanted to distance it from that because some of the shots in that are fairly arty, and like if you were to take the shots that were sort of filmed surreptitiously and put them against the arty stuff, I think it would have created a real,
it would have been, especially with all the special effects in the movie, it would have been way too hard.
It would have, made it really, really difficult to do without a lot of clashing of styles. And, again, I think setting it black and white, stripping out color, was a way to sort of harmonize that. There wasn't as much clash between those two different styles. Just like there wasn't really as much clash between time frames and old and new in this one. So it does seem to have sort of a mediating effect when you do it.
Yeah. So, black and white. Well done. Looking forward to seeing more of it, basically. When it's done well.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't want it to become a cliche where, every film is, that's the least bit arty is filmed in black and white.
Like indie songs like indie movies with wispy songs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, since we're having kind of a resurgence of this, I think it runs the risk of becoming a cliche. And I don't think that would be good because it's obviously a tool in a filmmaker's toolbox that when done well can do really good things for a movie. But if it becomes sort of a cliche...
Like 3D.
Yeah, filmmakers will do it for the wrong reasons, and it'll be terrible. And then other filmmakers will be like, this movie could be shot in black and white, but I'm not going to do that because that's such a cliche. Even though it actually probably could add something to the movie. Right. So, that is the risk we run, and hopefully that doesn't happen.
All right, so we'll see where that takes us. Nonetheless, what we're doing battles.
I just want to mention one thing about Alexander Payne.
Okay.
Because he's a director that's like on the cusp all the time of winning an Oscar and being like one of the great American filmmakers. But he's not quite there. He made Sideways, The Descendants, and now this. And one of the things I think is the best about him is he, in a drama, he's able to like world build in a weird way. Mm-hmm. Like build these own little mini worlds that feel real and have real relationships.
What he excels at is when you think about a family, a family has its, like, he does a lot of things about families and like friendships and like these things that are almost kind of worlds unto themselves because a family has its own history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you come into a movie about a family, your movie is coming in a set period of time in a very long history. And Alexander Payne, more than any other director working today, I feel, understands that and knows how to build those histories so that when you come into a film, it's a snapshot, but it feels connected to something greater.
Yeah, and he did that really well with like all these little side conversations between the families.
Yeah.
Like between the extended family. It's like, don't say we owe you money because he worked on your car more than you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's little things like that. And like, for example, Sideways, the relationships between the two main characters in that, it felt like you were seeing a friendship that had developed and like, sustained itself for over a long period of time, to where even when, you know, they're doing things that are like, you know, even when they're like, they're not really friends, they're still friends, you know what I mean? Because there's that history there that kind of anchors it. And I don't know, it seems like that's something that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And he does it so well.
He does it so well, yeah. And it's so clear in all of his movies that he's made. But again, that is like, Hollywood doesn't necessarily reward movies like that. It feels like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's almost like it's not big enough. It's like it's this small character-driven drama.
It's like, oh, sorry, man, you didn't make Middle Earth.
You didn't world build a Hobbit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, or you didn't comment on slavery, which seems to be what we're doing now when we want to get an Oscar.
Yeah.
No knock to 12 Years a Slave, which is a tremendous film, but it's a much bigger, louder film in some ways than something like Nebraska, and that's always going to draw more critical attention, whether, you know, deservedly or not.
Yeah, because it's that kid in the classroom going, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Right, yeah, right, where like Nebraska is a film that just sort of sits back, does its work, does it really well, but it's kind of quiet about it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
One day, Alexander Payne.
Yeah, well, you know, he'll make some sort of war epic. that will be his Oscar.
All right, so we didn't have a battles, but I want to make a pitch to you, the listener, and to you too, because I've said this before, and you guys have
on it. We have not done it yet.
What the hell, guys?
My brother keeps telling me to watch this too. I just haven't.
It's so good. It's so good.
I'll watch it.
It's so good. There will be a test. There will be a test next time.
Next time, all right.
Okay, so I don't know what happened to Fox this year, but they are knocking it out of the fucking park with their TV shows. Especially
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is awesome.
Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Sleepy Hollow, The Mindy Project. It's all so good this year.
New Girl. New Girl's good. I like New Girl.
New Girl's good. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But the one that really came out of left field, and I was even more surprised by this one than Sleepy Hollow, is Almost Human. And I think I've talked about this on the show before.
J.J. Abrams' new show.
It's J.J. Abrams' new show. So it's McCoy, who's from Star Trek, who's a cop.
Also Dredd.
Who's a cop in New York in the future. It's like 2058 or something like that. And it's about him and his android partner going around solving crimes in the future. And if it sounds like Blade Runner, that's because it kind of is like Blade Runner. Like, it's just perfect in the, like, taking a very serious movie and its tones like Blade Runner, and then basically making it a
buddy cop movie, or
like a
buddy
future
cop series.
Yeah, and making it a buddy cop series with still really like adult tones about, like, you know, drugs and violence and, you know, what a normal cop show would be about, but kind of making it a Saturday morning cartoon with live action actors, and it's fucking great. It's so good. It's so good.
Now, is this kind of a procedural? Because I don't like procedurals.
It's not a procedural in the sense that every week, like, you know, oh, they're solving another crime.
Okay.
Like this week.
So this isn't CSI Miami in the future with robots?
No. Like,
okay.
Like last week they were solving like this week it was a drug bust that went bad, and they had to, like, find out whether or not this cop that was killed was a dirty cop or, like, working his own undercover, like, arrest.
Huh.
And then, like, 2 weeks ago was like a hostage situation, and like McCoy and his partner were the only two cops in the building, so they had to take care of it. So it's very much like an action, like, buddy cop show.
Right.
It's so good. It's so good. Just Blade Runner as a Saturday morning cartoon. It's amazing. Go watch it. Almost Human, and not The Arrow.
How are the
Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Because I think you should definitely watch Arrow, even if you are going to watch Almost Human. You should watch all of these things.
Yes, and the last episode of Arrow, by the way, introduced Barry Allen. I haven't seen it yet, but he's in there.
Right.
Who's Barry Allen?
The Flash!
The Flash!
And
if as they are saying that there's going to be some sort of tie-in with Arrow with whatever the hell the DC cinematic universe is, this may be our first look at the Flash that'll be in the, you know, Superman versus
everyone.
the Superman versus Batman movie, which is
with Featuring Wonder Woman.
Featuring Wonder Woman. Which is looking more and more like it's actually going to just be the Justice League
Pre-Justice League.
Which may or may not have Lex Luthor in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if in fact there is going to be some sort of tie-in, who knows? It seems really tenuous at this point. You may see the first vestiges of that in Arrow, so you should watch that. It's on the CW.
How was the special effects for Almost Human, though? TV shows are kind of hit and miss with this.
Right.
They've gotten better, though, recently.
They've gotten better, and they've spent... This show has a huge budget. Like, you can tell just in the production value. Like, I mean, it's not like...
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, like Walking Dead, it's like you can tell like when that's not real blood.
Yeah.
This, you can kind of tell it's like, oh, they didn't have a flying drone. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's passable. Like, I mean, you can still... It's not like a movie where it's like you can't... Like, the special effects are being blended in pretty much without flaw.
Yeah, it's not Elysium.
Right. But, yeah, so you can tell when it's special effect. But, nonetheless, it looks really good.
I'll check it out on Hulu Plus.
It is on Hulu Plus.
Almost Human. Go see it.
Right.
Go watch all of it. All right, so that's the Swiftfilm show. What are we saying next week, Husain?
We're tomorrow. It might be a super show. We've got The Hobbit, and we've got Saving Mr. Banks.
Also, don't we have Inside Llewyn Davis?
Probably. I don't know.
I think that might be out in limited release, but yeah, it's definitely the case that as we move into December proper, we are getting into a really packed movie season. So expect
all the things are coming out.
Yes,
I think December 20th and 25th, 24th are like there's like six.
Yeah.
6 things.
So what we're saying is expect the format to be very much like 3 movies.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and or Furious over the next few weeks.
Yeah, so Hobbit, we'll probably see that.
Yeah, I'll see Saving Mr. Banks.
We'll probably see that in 3D.
Yeah.
And IMAX.
Saving Mr. Banks in 3D.
We need to see Walt Disney.
Walt Disney's coming right at us.
2-finger point.
Yeah. Walt Disney just threw an axe at my head. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So nonetheless, remember you can follow us on Twitter at Swiftfilm, swiftfilm.com/ No, yeah. Wait, Facebook. God damn it.
Facebook.com/
Swiftfilm. Swiftfilm.com. YouTube, where you listen to this.
Possibly.
Hopefully. SoundCloud.
By the way, we had live listeners.
Yeah.
Viewers for our last quick cast, which we did on
Thursday? Wednesday?
Friday,
I think.
Wow, that was really off.
Yeah, anyway, but we had people watching that thing live, and I for those people, write us to ask why. Why did like how, first off, how? Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you, by the way.
We're sorry for being so unprepared for that show.
Right, yeah. That one was not your best intro to the Swiftfilm show, let's say. But I'm mind boggled by that we had like 5 or 10 like
we didn't advertise we're gonna do
no
this.
one knew it was happening.
John broke out a chalkboard in his apartment and he was going through math equations on how this possibly could happen.
Right.
It's there were strings. It was a beautiful mind, basically.
So I'm not sure how that happened, but it happened, and we're thankful for it.
So
follow us, subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Google Plus or whatever.
And SoundCloud and the iTunes library.
Rate us 5.
5.
I'll take a 4.
No, 5.
No.
We worked too damn hard on this
all
podcast.
or nothing, Husain. We spend 3 hours a week on this.
Yeah. Literally. 3 hours a week. Think about that.
I could watch the entire season of Almost Human up to this point, half of it, one week, and then another one.
I could be rewatching Arrow in the time that I spent on this podcast.
Wolf of Wall Street's 3 hours long.
Is it really?
Jesus Christ, it is, isn't it? Yeah. I am not sure how I feel about that movie. I don't want to
see that anymore. That's
Apparently,
too long.
it's amazing. The early reviews say it's amazing, and it's worth...
But 3 hours?
Yep.
No.
It's his longest movie.
No, fuck that, man. There's no movie. The only movie that needs to be 3 hours is Lawrence of Arabia.
The Hobbit.
And Lawrence of Arabia.
Lord of the Rings.
Anyway.
3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nonetheless, speaking of The Hobbit, we'll be talking about that next week. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.